Hi everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, I am going to demonstrate how we can configure guest self-registration portal for a wide user using Cisco ISE and Cisco Search. The idea is if some user from outside, either guest or a contractor, comes to your company or your office and they want to connect through a wide network, so you can configure your switches so that any user or any guest came from outside and connects its cable from its laptop or endpoint to any point in your network. So it will also be redirected to a self-registration portal. So on this portal, a user can register itself as a guest or a contractor, and they can have access to network, and you can also control their access on ICE, and you can also allow them some sort of limited access to your internal resources. So we'll start with configuration on the switch. So switch configuration like AAA authentication authorization are similar as we did in .1x and map videos. So no need to do this configuration because the switch I am going to configure already have these configurations present, and the interface configuration is also same which we use for .1x and map. So for this guest portal thing, we need to configure three things which are very important. First thing is redirection ACL. What this ACL do? This ACL is configured on switch and authorized by Cisco ISE to push this ACL to user session. And when this redirection ACL is pushed to user session, then user request is redirected to browsing request is redirected to guest portal where the user can register itself as a guest. Okay, so the the flow or the sequence of this redirection ACL is very important. So we need to deny www like web access, HTTP, HTTPS, and 8443 towards Cisco ISE. This is the IP of my Cisco ISE. Then you need to deny DNS communication and also deny DSCP communication. So user can get IP address from DSCP, and you need to permit IP and this redirection ACL is totally opposite to normal access list. Why? Because uh, because in redirection ACL, the flow which you want to allow, okay, which flow is the flow which is required or flow which you want to allow should come under deny statement. If in this example we want to allow HTTP request to Cisco ISE, we want to allow DNS communication, we want to allow DSCP communication. So under this redirection ACL, all these things will fall under deny statement. And apart from this, we do not want any other access to that external user. So we did permit IP and ANE. Okay. So this communication will match with the user request, and it will help in popping up guest portal on the user browser. Okay, so I will configure this redirection is here on my switch. Okay, the next thing is you should enable IP HTTP server or HTTP service on your switch, because this service is important. It helps to pop up or redirect web request uh, to the customer or to the guest PC, to the guest browser. Okay. And third thing is, if I show you my interface configuration, show an interface bit 1/0/3 to which I will connect my PC. So I have this VLAN 97. So my user, when it will guest user, when connects to this switch, it will get IP from this VLAN. So I need one IP from this VLAN on this switch. So what I will do, I have my DHCP server, or I will also uh, assign one IP to this VLAN through DHCP, IP address DHCP. So why it is required? Because this will, so the redirection, when the redirection happens or when that guest portal pop-ups on a user browser, so the communication is between switch and the user. Okay, and in order to get rid of some sort of blocking of inter-VLAN routing, or if there is some firewall, so it is always recommended to have one SCI or one IP address from the same VLAN in which your guest user will be connected. Okay, so these things, three things are compulsory or to be configured on the switch. So till that point, my switch is ready. Now we'll jump to ISE configuration. So in ISE, first I have to enable like radius with my switch, which is already enabled. This is my switch. Let me see, 95.14, 95.14. So my radius is enabled. Okay, that's cool. Now we'll go to portal, work center, guest access, and then portal. We'll see a portal page which will open on uh, our guest browser for registration and authentication. So here we can edit our page. So if I open this portal setting, okay, and if I go to this thing, so if whatever I select here, contractor, daily or weekly. So whoever user, guest user will register on this portal will be considered as a contractor. Okay. And in the guest type, I have contractor here. So what is the uses of this? So I can make uh, account validation or some global settings on this. So I can provide contractor with different settings like contractor, the user registered as contractor will have 5 days or 1 month or 2 months of valid account, and for daily user it will be valid for 1 day. Okay. So I'm going to use this portal. I will use the default setting. So I showed you like you can select type of guest from here. Okay. The user, the guest user will register on this portal will be in group contractor default. Okay. Now let's move to make authorization policy elements. Okay. Policy results, authorization profile. First of all, I will create one profile to redirect user request to guest portal so that guest registration portal will open on my guest user browser. I will name it as lab underscore wired underscore, but we can write redirect. Okay. So here, what I will do, I will give hardcode a VLAN. My VLAN is 97. It is not compulsory, but for the sake of like hard code, I am giving the one VLAN also. And then main thing is web redirection. We will select central web authentication. Here we have to provide the name of the ACL. So the working of this, when this policy is pushed by Cisco ISE to switch. So ISE will tell switch that this ACL, which is in your local database, just apply this ACL to this particular user session. And here we have to select the portal. I am going with the self-registration portal default, okay, which I showed you. And here static, I can put static IP of my Cisco ISE server. Why I'm putting, because I am not using an EDS server, so I'm just using IP based communication, so that's why I have to put the static IP. Okay, then submit. So one additional thing we can do, what we can do, we can also attach a pre auth redirection ACL. Okay, if you see this access list, let me show you in my template also. There is one pre-authentication ACL. So this ACL, what it does, it is opposite to this redirection ACL. This decal is opposite to redirection ACL. So here, what we are doing permit. What we denied here, we are permitting here. Why it is required? Because we want to make sure that once the user is under registration process, should not access any other resources apart from what is allowed, like only communication with Cisco ISE, the self-registration portal, only access to DNS, and only access to DHCP. So this is my lab pre-auth ACL. I will paste it here. I will check its status, it's valid, submit, and go to authorization profile. The profile I created, okay, I will attach this decal here. Lab pre-auth ACL. So it can work without this decal, but for an additional security and if you want to be more sure or more secure that guest user or external user should not have any access to any resource or anything during the procedure of registration, it is recommended you should attach this decal with your authorization profile. Okay, now I will save it. Okay, now we'll create a policy set. I have my this policy for the search. I will enable this because I'm going to use it in .1xi lab. So it means all the requests coming from this switch 95.14, which I am using in my case. So should hit this policy set, and when go to this policy set, first of all, we'll see authentication policy. So the user, when the guest user will connect its laptop or its PC to through cable to our network, to our switch. So switch will consider it as a MAP request because the .1x applicant will not be available or not enabled on endpoint device. So switch will consider it as MAP and initiate a MAP authentication request. So in the MAP authentication, when it hits this authentication policy, so it will check internal endpoints, and the guest users machine MAC address will not be part of endpoint, so authentication will be failed and user will not found. So what we'll do because we want to redirect him to the portal, self-registration portal. So what we'll do here, if user not found, we'll make it as continue. Okay. With this policy, what it will do, it will check for MAC address inside its internal endpoint database. If user is not found, then it will forward it to authorization policy. Now here I will create an authorization policy. So my authorization policy, I will name it as wired guest redirection. Okay. So what will be my condition? Surely it will be a map request, wired map. Okay. Wired map, and the request should come from this particular switch. IP of the switch is 192.168.95.14. Okay. So this condition is not compulsory, or you can create your own conditions on the basis of what you configured in your network. So here I'm using this particular switch for this guest uh, demonstration. So that's why I am putting it here. But for sure, wired map will be part of the condition. Use And if it is wide map and the request is coming from the switch, the profile I will attach is what I created, lab wide redirect. So the flow would be when the user connects, switch will consider it as a map request. Switch will send its MAC address to Cisco ISE for authentication. This request coming from the particular switch 95.14 will hit this policy set, and it will then uh, match to this map, wide map authentication request. And when user is not found, then due to this condition continue, it will send it for authorization. And authorization, this will match like it is a wide request, wide map request, and it is coming from this particular switch. Then push this policy to the user. So now what will happen? One ACL, redirection ACL, and one decal. Okay, both will be pushed on to switch, and ICE will tell switch like attach these two, this decal and ACL to user session and generate a redirection request, and redirection will be towards guest portal. Okay, and guest portal we have already selected in this policy. Save. So now till this point, my user or guest user or contractor will be able to see a guest registration portal, and they can register themselves, create their username and password. Now next flow we will create when the user is created, a guest user is created, and he wants he go for authentication. Okay, so before jumping into this, let me go back to portal. I will go back to portal. I will show you what will be my self-registration portal. Portal does URL. So user will see this page due the policy we configured. As a result of it, the user will, this link will pop up and user will able to see this page. So if the username and password is already created for the guest or contractor, they can simply put their username, password and sign on. If it is a new user, so they can just click on this one, give their information and then register. Okay, once it is registered, so their username and password, which is automatically created by ICE, will be shown on the screen, and they can then jump to registration page, sorry, authentication page, and can put their username and password and can log in. So now I will create a policy for the user authentication. So user, guest user is the second flow is the user is going to log in using its newly created username and password. So my result would be authorization profile. So what I will do, I will create another decal. Okay, similar to this one, like I will allow use this one, and I will deny all my private IPs which are used in my network, and I will permit any. So I will copy this, create a new decal for our lab, add lab guest in underscore deny. So what I'm going to do, I will permit communication with ICE. Okay, I will permit DNS, DSCP communication. I will deny private communication because my internal resources in my network will be on some of these private IPs. Okay, and then permit IVIP, which means they can use internet, but they cannot access any of my resource. We'll check it is valid, submit. Now I will create a policy. We'll name it as lab wired guest underscore in. What I'm going to do, I will attach a label, okay, and I will attach a VLAN. I'm forcing or I'm hard coding that always my user which is authenticated will get this VLAN, particular VLAN, okay, and yeah. So now I will go back to my policy sets, go to this policy set, then authentication. So what will happen now? So now user will come with a username and password, which is not .1x, which is web authentication, which will fall under default policy and will check in all identity stores. So my guest, so what I told you when I was showing you the guest portal, so all the users which are registered will be registered as internal guest contractors. Okay, so all of the user, guest or administrator user or internal user, all are in this all user ID stores. Okay, so this policy will be hit when my guest will come, guest registered user come for authentication. Then it will jump to authorization policy. I will create an authorization policy, wired guest access. So my condition would be it will be a guest flow. Okay, guest flow means guest flow is what? First session it comes with a map or a map request. User is registered. Now it is coming for authentication with the newly created user. And the second condition would be my guest account, identity, group name, and from here I will select identity user, identity group, guest type contractor. Okay, this is what I shown you in the portal. And use, then the policy which we created is lab internal deny. Okay, so what it is mean? It is if it is a guest flow means user once came with map authentication, then the page is redirected and then user get registered. Now it is coming with newly created, or it is coming after authentication with newly created guest account. So if that account or authentication is from this particular guest type contractor, then assign them this policy. And policy is I'm just allowing him communication with ICE, I'm just allowing communication with DNS, DSCP, and internet access. Rest of my internal communication, internal servers, internal resources on private IPs, I have locked it and save. So that's it. So this is the configuration part. So I will, the video length is very like long. So now I will record another video for the demonstration and I will upload it in two parts. First part will be this one, like with configuration part one as configuration and second part will be verification. Thank you for watching. Assalamu alaikum.